Hi everyone. Good almost afternoon. Thank you for inviting me. Really glad to be speaking with such an amazing crowd on a Saturday almost afternoon. So let me just bring up my slides real quick. And I hope you will be able to see my slides. So today the topic for us, we won't be talking about stocks. We'll actually be talking about a strategy called the Allianz Global Artificial Intelligence. So this is a strategy that's offered to retail investors in Singapore, and you are able to find this strategy under Poems. So my agenda for today, really is to talk about the strategy, what is artificial intelligence, what you get out of this fund, and more importantly, where do we see the future lies ahead for artificial intelligence. So my name is Jasmine. Feel free to ask me questions on the chat box or even on the link that I'm able to see questions via. But prior to that, I do want to give a very quick introduction of the organization that I represent. So I come from Allianz Global Investors, and we are part of the one of the world's top 5 finance organization in the world. So our parent company is Allianz SE. We have been around for more than 100 over years, really backed with very strong credit rating, as well as we are amongst the top 5 asset managers globally. So definitely one of the key leaders or players in this asset management, which is the investment field that we are passionate about. Okay, so I hope you are able to see it. Sometimes there is technical glitch, so the cameras will switch off because we're using company laptop, unfortunately. So do bear with me, the cameras get switched off. More importantly, the slides should be still visible to the audience. So coming back to, our organization, what you tend to realize in our marketing campaigns is that we will definitely have 2 words, and that those 2 words are activists. So we are 100% active fund managers, and really we take pride in really letting, active speaks the word for us. This is creating shared value by, putting our clients' interests first every step of the way. So by investing in long-term investment solution, our goal is to elevate the whole experience for our investor, regardless where they're based. And that also means that we collaborate globally. So Singapore is one of the satellite offices that we have in Asia, represented by the various offices you are able to see here in Asia. But also importantly, we have offices in US as well as Europe. So other than providing the local footprint as well as local insights, we do collaborate globally as well as sharing insights across the world to really deliver that investment experience to our investor, regardless where they're based. As you can see, our footprint is globally, and this is really a testament to our expertise across the globe. So the agenda for today, like mentioned earlier, it will be talking about artificial intelligence. What is it all about? Where do we see in future? And more importantly, what is the strategy that's offered at Allianz all about? So artificial intelligence is really it's not a trend that has been in the market for just last year. A lot of people would only be able to relate to artificial intelligence because of the digital adoption last year. But actually, artificial intelligence has always been in our market. So what exactly is artificial intelligence, or AI in short? In its simplest form, AI is the ability of a program or a machine to think like a human being. We are now training machines to understand, to reason, and learn pretty much like a child, I would say. As we expose it to new problems and data, it is growing and getting smarter. So really AI, it encompasses a very broad set of disciplines. It's not just really about technology, right? It's about deep learning, it's about machine learning, it's big data, 3D vision, etc. All these are really coming together to make AI a reality, and it's enabling machines to hear, see, navigate, or interact in real time. Like we would see occasionally if you browse website, there's a chat box that would come out at the bottom right. So that's also using the power of machine learning as well as artificial intelligence. We first investigate really launching an AI fund 5 years ago, right? We saw a really major breakthrough back then in deep learning. Google published a white paper really identifying cats. If you recall, many years, maybe 2-3 years ago, Google published a white paper with the objective of identifying cats in YouTube videos without being specified what it was. So it was able to extract the feature by just analyzing videos, and that was a breakthrough in computer science, and therefore leading up to a framework that enables things like self-learning cars and even internet assistant like your Google Home, your Siri, etc. So right now we are really witnessing the beginning of a fourth industrial evolution. So the prior three were the first industrial revolution in your mechanical production, where railways, steam powers were made possible. The second industrial revolution back in, end of 19th centuries, it was really the mass production of electricity, telephones, and autos. Fast forward to third industrial revolution, this is where we see further automation like your construction machinery, your PC, how mobile phones evolve from a very big black squarish container-like phone to a more smart touchscreen like without keypad these days. So that's really the evolution that we have been seeing post 1950 all the way to today. Fast forward today, what we are seeing is we're recognizing the beginning of fourth industrial evolution, and this is fusing the physical and digital, biological worlds by creating this AI infrastructure that is really looking at big data as well as application robotics. So what we believe is AI could be the most disruptive technology of the 21st century. The benefits or the potential benefits from AI, have led some to compare the advancement to the next industrial revolution, like I've mentioned right now. So it definitely has the potential to disrupt an entire business model and change how you and I work and live. I believe firsthand you've seen how things are very different ever since the circuit breaker in Singapore in 2020. A lot of things that you weren't really expecting to be able to transact via online is all made possible, like grocery shoppings. A few years back, nobody would have imagined that, Grab or this kind of the booking of transport is able to be so seamless at the touch of your finger or your smartphone. As well as, you've seen more deliveries, more smart payments over line, really more transactions online. And that is really the start of how we believe AI can really disrupt how traditional businesses have been transacting. And so now we look at the journey to artificial intelligence. Like I've mentioned, artificial intelligence is not new to the market, but it's really last year where the market or global investors start appreciating how rapid these transitions can be because of the lockdown. So we have been on a journey for some time to artificial intelligence. The initial concept of AI goes back to 1950s when the goal was to develop a set of algorithm to attempt to mimic how human brain works. So yes, it started 1950s, but the funding then was of course more limited because of how such a conviction will require much more benefit in order for people or in order for investors to really want to stay invested. So back then, really there wasn't enough data or computing capacity. And when it happened then was, we thought machines, things like chess with defined decision trees or design software with business rules to manage a process. So if you remember back in 1950s or even, the early 1990s, if you were using computers, there are those chess games and the snake and ladder game using a phone or even the mind block games that you would play. So these are really the very, very early stage of artificial intelligence. And machines can do incredible things, right? Like churning data, but basic tasks like learning, seeking, or walking were extremely difficult in the past. But now we are entering a new age of artificial intelligence where we are able to give machine lots of data, enable it to make sense in its environment, and then can create and adapt the logic on its own. So this really been driving the rapid advancement in mobile, cloud computing, as well as big data. For example, like all of our likes and dislikes, comments and images are training machines to understand more of our personal taste and preference. If you just see how Facebook content feeds or even Instagram ads are more relevant these days. even if you don't use Facebook or Instagram, if you just look at YouTube itself, you realize that, after looking at one or two videos, they will keep suggesting similar content videos. And even if you switch off your session for that day, the next time if you use, they are still going to suggest very similar content as what you have previously watched. So this is really the power of machine learning and the journey of artificial intelligence, where it's from 1950s all the way to 2020. So definitely we believe that AI, has its potential to increase its economic growth across every industry over the many decades to come. And when we look at the potential, right, a recent study, not so recent, but sometime in 2018, PwC estimated that AI could contribute up to 15.7 trillion to the global economy in 2030, making it the biggest commercial opportunity in today's fast-changing economy. So if you look at a portfolio, if you look at millennia, very interestingly, I was seeing an article that they were comparing the investment portfolio that have changed over the years. So right now, really a lot of people's portfolio, what they will have is really more geared towards the growth, the faster growing sector, and AI is definitely one of the subject matter underneath it. So AI is expected to transform and help boost profits in many industries, from education to healthcare to farming, as well as logistics. So companies don't just use AI because they think it's cool, right? They use it to reduce the costs and increase revenue as well as profitability, which is essential for shareholders. So we believe that the investment as well as the impact to come will reshape industries as well as global economy. More importantly, create trillions of dollars in shareholder value over the next decade, so long as you pick a company that has a very strong business model and leveraging artificial intelligence. So what are then the latest development in artificial intelligence, since I've said so much about the history of it? AI is really starting to, power today's future. It's happening behind the scenes, enabling things, such as autonomous driving, where AI and analyzes information such as your GPS location, allowing you to share real-time information, data from sensor and cameras to provide real-time driving capacity, right? And more importantly, like I've mentioned just now, AI is not just really about pure tech. We are able to see technology advancement like your voice assistants, like your Siri, your Alexa, they are becoming consumer interface to AI. So Alexa has grown, from 5,000 skills to now over 50,000 skills. And Google Assistant can handle more than 1 million commands and get smarter every day. For me personally, my house, I do use Google Home very fair bit. Whenever I'm home or switch off or on the fans, I use Google Home. So that's really how artificial intelligence have really sipped into changing how you and I perhaps are living or, living in this society today. But really, if we take a step back, AI shouldn't really just be about pure technology. If we just look at, farming, farmers are able to use artificial intelligence to really improve their crop harvest, etc. Right? And so we do see that, with artificial intelligence, learning about data, having a more sequential time in fertilizing, in watering the crops, it helps to increase the crops yield for the farmers, which is very important because for them, harvesting is really something that it's very weather driven, and having this kind of AI and machine learning by improving their crop yield, this could help to improve the cost as well as profitability. But more importantly, when we look at AI, I believe firsthand you will agree with me for retail. And the picture here suggests grocery shopping. So exactly last year, if you've done online grocery shopping, you would know that it wasn't last year that made online grocery shopping a business proposal. It was already a business proposal or even a viable business line for many people who prefer to shop online. But last year made it even more convenient because of the lockdowns and the fact that if you're able to get your goods and services at the tip of your fingers without having to go out, that perhaps will create convenience for many people who are perhaps rushing for time. So also AI, I think more importantly, because we are still in a pandemic right now, AI has also been able to help on the vaccine front. Right now in Singapore, we have a couple of vaccine that is approved. So more importantly, before the vaccines were approved by various different governments, there is a process of identifying the virus and then putting together a vaccine. So within 45 days of identifying, isolating, and fully sequencing the COVID-19 virus, pharmaceutical companies, they had deliver vaccine candidates. The very first few was Moderna, Pfizer, etc. And to top this up, they did all of this in the month of Jan, Feb, as well as March, a full month really before lockdown became happened in the world, right? So it was really thanks to a mixture of AI algorithm as well as advanced analytics that really made this vaccine, the production of the vaccine as well as the registering, achieved. So really AI is needed to help to discover new machines quicker than ever, in particular so in biotech, where you are seeing really a lot more investments going in, giving this biotech industry an edge by being able to process data and stimulate outcome at a breathtaking speed. And if I come back something to, something that we're able to relate to more, if you recall earlier, I've mentioned about, video, watching, etc., online videos. So this have definitely been very, very different from how YouTube or even video streaming channels have behaved maybe 5 or 10 years ago. But the very first, few years where YouTube was, widely used, you don't really see so much of related contents being propped up. You don't really see much advertisements being propped up. But more recently, this has definitely changed because of the power of data analytics as well as machine learning. And what this has geared towards is more personalized use to users using AI, while digital advertising platform also relies on AI to serve targeted ads. So if you realize that perhaps on your Google, if you are looking for something and you perhaps decided that, okay, maybe I'll just think about it. But if you were to change onto YouTube or some other websites, the same prompts will keep coming up. And that's really because of the more targeted ad that is focusing on your relevant searches within your computer. So that's also intelligent search. This has helped to make users find more relevant video content across thousands of channels. And that is how online streaming has been made different. In healthcare and in agriculture as well, this is opening up new possibilities. So, machine learning's algorithm, are using scans to deliver more reliable diagnosis of perhaps early stage eczema diseases, giving the doctors an opportunity to start treatment at a much earlier stage. And, it also helps to analyze your medical images at an incredibly high speed. So using data from all over the world to help doctors make more accurate analysis. And that's also how, artificial intelligence not only open up the fact that it's able to understand consumers much better from machine learning, it also opens up a platform for global scientists to speak as well as share information to improve the quality of life through, this kind of wide sharing and hopefully disease prevention. Farming. So earlier on mentioned, is it possible for farmers or even traditional industries to really look at adopting AI? Definitely so, because this can help to better crop the forecast and resource efficiency. So machine learning and computer vision technology has enabled precision spray application. So this is more like fertilizer, water, etc., which have the potential to increase farmer yield and more importantly, reduce costs. So the roadmap is calling for machine learning and AI to find their way into every piece of agriculture equipment over time. And if there are agricultural companies who are able to better leverage AI, this could help to really improve their bottom line and more importantly, capture a market share using this efficiency generating from artificial intelligence. So when we look at, AI, once again, we don't believe that AI is just really silo in technology, because when we look at AI, it has the potential to increase growth rates in every industry due to the productivity, the time savings, as well as greater efficiency with higher quality. So when we look at which industries are able to likely adopt AI as the fastest and see the greatest impact, it is likely going to be the data intensive industries like your healthcare, your professional services, transportation, logistics, media, and of course technology. We believe that AI is a horizontal technology and every industry can be disrupted to see its benefit. Most of us see how it's impacting sectors like retail, technology. But think about the areas like technology. Intelligent tutoring systems are lowering the cost and allowing many more students to benefit from, personalized instruction and targeted feedback. So AI is also now performing, more time-consuming tasks like grading, which allows teachers to spend more time on course preparation and student interaction. So very recently, I actually did an exam, and because of COVID, how the exam was was uh, was conducted was very different from how it used to be in the past. So in the past, it's really paper, pen in an examination hall with thousand over people. But because of COVID, everything was computerized, and there was no paper, there was no pen. You bring your own calculators, and really is no longer taking time to send the papers overseas, grading, etc. Because now it's all computerized. It's much easier for grading. So definitely education is also a sector that AI has the potential to disrupt. And really looking at each country's right, AI is becoming an arms race by almost every major country now. If you read about the news, other than the infrastructure that a lot of countries are putting funding into investments in innovation, technology, your digital infrastructure, your AI. These are also constantly in the news. So now governments are fostering investments in AI to help build R&D centers, setting up private or even joint partnership to help spur this development. So the US was the early leader in AI given the early investments by Silicon Valley companies. But now we are also seeing other countries like China, etc. They're now pouring billions of dollars into AI and vying to be the leader over the next decade. So every major European country have also made an announcement in years and trying to form a European AI coalition to better compete against the other partners in the world. So definitely, we've seen AI, and this is going to be across the globe in every country. So where are we right now in this AI revolution itself? Right now, we still believe that we are in the early beginning of the AI revolution, despite the very fast acceleration in 2020. So today, we are just starting to utilize machine learning to achieve narrow artificial intelligence, where it is smart enough to really look at one specialized area or task, where it can be equal to human intelligence in efficiency. There is still much more innovation needed to enable high level of AI, and we are at the early stages of building out the AI infrastructure and new use cases. In the next 10 to 15 years, AI could approach general intelligence and be as smart as people in most areas. We won't just turn it over to machines, of course. And the next decade will be what we call human supervised AI, where we let the AI help us out and give us unique insights. Humans can control and determine whether to implement the recommendations, of course. So we need to get comfortable with the technology, and AI still needs to learn the ethics and governance. We are still about 30 years probabilities of what we call as super AI, or areas where we have full autonomous robots like in the movies. So we think the future is more like Jarvis helping Tony Stark in Iron Man versus the Terminator. So that's really a very quick glimpse of the, what AI was all about and the opportunities that we see in artificial intelligence. I'm going to spend the next 5 to 10 minutes just to take you through our strategy, the Allianz Global Artificial Intelligence Fund. So we are not new in the market. In fact, we have been running this strategy since 2016. We first launched in Japan, and then we launched a Luxembourg vehicle in 2017, and definitely one of the first few funds out there looking at artificial intelligence. The Morningstar 5-star rating is a testament of our track record against our peer group. So what exactly is Allianz Global Artificial Intelligence about? So the three key points here is that, we are investing in the driver of innovation and disruption. We are, like I've mentioned, one of the first few artificial intelligence fund launched to really seek a magnitude of AI discipline across different industries and to reap the benefit of this fast growing market. This is not a pure technology fund. I have to be very clear. We invest in technology, yes, but we don't believe that AI is isolated to just technology itself. And therefore, we have exposure to other sectors other than technology, other than the IT sector. This is also a focus fund that, we do fundamental research. We speak with the companies, understand their business model, understand what their business outlook is. When we compare ourselves to the MSCI IT index, we don't really have much overlap. In fact, we probably have less than 20% overlap, and that means that we are value adding as an active fund manager. And really, this is investing in innovative companies leveraging AI across the full market cap spectrum. So we don't really have a lot of mega cap stocks because we do believe that the faster growing segment of the market is in the mid or the large cap rather than the mega caps. And this is an investment team that they are very closely connected to Silicon Valley, having the experience of more than 15 years investing in markets through periods of technological change as well as disruption. So really the team that is able to share a lot more about the evolution of technology and artificial intelligence. So the performance, this is the latest as of 30th June, so as of a few days ago. And, looking at the month of June itself, we have outperformed the benchmark. Year to date, we have also outperformed our benchmark, returning you close to about 14.39. Last few days of the market has been pretty rosy. So I would say that the year-to-date number is probably closer to 15%, not only outperforming the benchmark, but also the peer groups competing in this artificial intelligence area. Looking at a longer term, 1 year, 3 years, or since inception of 2017, our strong outperformance is visible, especially if you look against the benchmark. So looking at a 1 year, we have delivered more than 81% compared to the benchmark of 41. Looking at a longer market period, looking at since inception, we have returned about close to 33% annualized compared to the benchmark of 21%. So our strong performance is really a testament of our stock picking skills as well as risk management. If you recall, sometime in April or sometime in March as well as April, there was significant rotation in the market between growth and value. So this strategy did, suffer a bit of a drawdown, but the drawdown was a bit more digestible than a lot of our peers. And this was really attributed to our risk management, where we do not hold very strong concentration in one particular company. The maximum we can ever hold is really 5% in any one particular company, and that's for risk management purpose. So AI, broadly we have categorized, the fund into 3 categories of, topics for artificial intelligence. One is the AI infrastructure, one is AI application, and one is AI-enabled industry. So AI infrastructure is more of your semiconductor, your Internet of Things, your cloud computing, etc. AI application is more software, like machine learning, like, working from home, remote software, and the cognitive system. But really what we are heavily positioned now is AI-enabled industry. So these are usually non-technology. These are industries that have adopted AI, that they have proven that, these are companies that we like them because not only they are beneficiaries of AI, not only have they adopted AI, they have proved that, this business profitability have been made enabled because of their investments in artificial intelligence. This can be a range of, your advertising, agriculture, energy, automotive, aerospace, transportation, retail, finance, etc., that are usually non-IT centric. This will show you the allocation of, our AI infrastructure, our AI application, as well as our AI enabled industries. We typically take a very active positioning in terms of managing the exposure. So you can see that very starting in March compared to March 2020, all the way to comparing to March 2021, the exposure in our AI enabled industry actually went up from 25% to 48%. This was because this was at the heart of the pandemic last year, where we were not so comfortable with holding a bit more cyclical sensitive industry names, really because we were not able to ascertain the magnitude of uncertainty then, and therefore we have actually trimmed our position of our enable industry to about 25. With the more the better vaccine rollout, with the reopening of economy, we have gradually been increasing our AI enabled industry to now 48%, because these are the most cyclical sensitive names, but these are also names that are adopters in AI. So if we have been increasing here, what have we been decreasing? We have been decreasing our AI application, in particularly the software. So this is really more remote work, more software, and we have increased the allocation in March 2020 to about 40%, because we are able to see that there are companies that will benefit from this software application, especially in a work from home context. But gradually over the months where these stocks have appreciated so much more that we're not too sure of how their business outlook will be, we've actually taken our risk management steps to trim our profits, and gradually we decrease it from 40% to 22%. And this has helped in the much consolidation that we saw in growth related strategies. For AI infrastructure, we have had pretty similar exposure, I would say, not so drastic as the AI enabled industry as well as the AI application. We have trimmed a little from 34% to 27%, mainly taking some profits on software as well as semicon and equipment. And when we look at this strategy, like I've mentioned, our mega cap is not going to have very, very strong exposure. So this is as of 30th April. We've actually trimmed a little bit of our mega cap. Usually we see mega cap stock as more of a tactical approach, because in March and April, those were the stocks that were a bit more penalized, and therefore we have allocated a bit more and taken a bit of profit. So now our mega cap exposure has reduced. But in any point in time, this strategy is going to have a more exposure in large cap as well as mid cap, where we see better opportunity or more attractive opportunity for companies in AI. So this is the fund characteristic. As of 30th April, you can see that the portfolio allocation to IT sector is about 40%. The benchmark is about 60%, and we do have allocation to other sectors like communication services, consumer discretionary, healthcare, energy, financials, etc. This is our top 10 holdings. You can look at the fact sheet. I will not be talking about the stocks because we are not allowed to be speaking about stocks. So I will just leave you to refer to the fact sheets. And this is the team that is based in San Francisco. Right now, the team's AUM is actually more than 18 billion. We have seen a substantial growth in AUM, especially last year, where investors were able to see firsthand the acceleration of artificial intelligence. So this has benefited our fund, especially at the backdrop of consistent, strong performance. So to sum it up, artificial intelligence is really about the future. It's likely to be the biggest driver of innovation and disruption since the internet in 2000s. For artificial intelligence fund coming from Allianz Global Investors, you are able to benefit from a very actively managed fund that invests in companies across all sectors with exposure to artificial intelligence. Of course, not all companies are going to make it. What we like are fundamentally strong companies with very strong business proposal when we do fundamental research. And this is a team that has experience, decade of experience, and very closely connected to Silicon Valley. Okay, so this is the disclaimer. Active is Allianz Global Investors. I will just really quickly show you a video that is done up by the team to really sum up this artificial intelligence fund. Okay, I'll just stop here. So I realized the screen wasn't really sharing, so you might not be able to see the whole video. But if you like to see further, it's on YouTube. So I'll just stop here for now to take the questions. Okay, so I'm just looking at the website. What are the core stocks? So this is not an ETF. This is a mutual fund, and this is available on Poem. So this is really not an ETF. If you want to look at the top 10 holdings, you're able to just refer to our fact sheet, which I flashed earlier. But you can also find our fact sheet on the Poem's website. So there is a question on the past return performance of the fund. Let me just bring up the slide again on the performance. Let me just share my screen again, and you should be able to see it. So this is the performance as of 30th of June, so a couple of days ago, and you can see that year to date, the strategy has outperformed the benchmark very nicely, as well as some of our peers, which are still very flattish or in the single digit territory. But of course, longer term track record, we have it since 2017. And this is also a strategy that has very nicely outperforming the benchmark, which is made up of 50%, MSCI All Country World, as well as 50% MSCI IT Index. And because of our performance against our peers, we have also earned ourselves a 5-star Morningstar rating. So this is more of an independent data provider, Morningstar. And what it does is that it will kind of compare fund performance and, give a rating. Maximum is 5. So they will give a rating depending on performance to really let investor know that, how this strategy is pit against the peers in terms of performance-wise. Okay, let me see. There are a few chats going on. So, so what is the fee for you to buy the fund via Poems? I understand that Poems doesn't charge any sales charge or custody fee. So it will be just the management fee or the all-in fee for the strategy itself. So this is prevalent in all mutual funds, and these are all compounded on a daily basis. So you won't really see a one-shot fee that's deducted, but it will be deducted accrued from the daily NAV itself. So the all-in fee for this strategy is about 2%, close to 2%, which is quite the market's standard for active mutual fund. Okay, so I see a couple of questions. I would just take a few in the interest of time. I saw that, okay, so there's this question, would I think or views of blockchain technology, not cryptocurrency, to enable AI, DA, big data in terms of distributed cloud computing? Thanks. So definitely blockchain is a very, very big subject, right? It's you're right, it can be cryptocurrency, but it can also relate to your smart payment, which is like your Square, your PayPal, etc. So we do have some stocks in our AI portfolio, because like what I've mentioned, AI, when we look at it, it's really the three categories over here, right? Your AI infrastructure, your application, as well as enable industry. So for finance itself, smart payments definitely is one of the very exciting areas that we are seeing, that is disrupting how you and I really make purchase. Even if you go to the hawker centers today, you don't necessarily need cash anymore. You can use your Grab Pay, you can use Pay Now, PayLah, whatever it is, if they do have. These are really things that we are seeing that can disrupt the industry. So I would say for blockchain, we have some exposure, but is it because of blockchain technology? No, it's because it is more tilt towards the artificial intelligence enabled industry, and therefore we have the exposure. So I would say that, hand in hand, AI as well as blockchain, they do have a bit of intertwined relations, um, and this probably is why some of our holdings is also can be relating to blockchain technology, but we don't hold any cryptocurrencies. Okay, so I hope that helps with the question. There's this question: what role does Allianz play in terms of artificial intelligence? What is the timeline, and how much can Allianz pass on the savings to investors as well as consumers? So as a firm itself, we do have artificial intelligence investment. I'm not talking about the strategy, but as a firm itself, we have artificial intelligence deployment, even in some of the strategies that are more quantitative analysis. For this strategy, we do not use any AI. The only AI probably is really picking out perhaps names or stocks that have been mentioned in the news for artificial intelligence, for digital adaptation. Prior to 2020, that was quite a good mechanism, because we were probably able to find some newer names or more exciting opportunity. But when we come forward to today, even if you just look at internet, if you just Google digital or artificial intelligence, a lot of name pops up, and some of these are irrelevant names. So right now, the team is really doing more fundamental research, really speaking with the companies, understanding what their business model is like, what their outlook, their corporate governance, their sales revenue, etc., to really make a point or a decision whether we want to include it in our AI fund itself. And really, when we look at mutual funds, we would always advocate long-term investment horizon. Unfortunately, if you're looking at speculative investments, I don't think a mutual fund would be that suitable. Perhaps you could look at ETF or individual stocks, but if you are looking at a more longer term investment horizon, you are convicted with the artificial intelligence arena, and you want to really have a strategy that has a track record with the experts of the investment team, then looking at mutual funds like Allianz Global Artificial Intelligence can really take that burden off you to make that decision when to buy or when to sell, but rather stay invested. And whenever there's exciting opportunity, then the investment team would be the first to consider, as well as adding it in if they find it attractive enough. So I can't really comment so much on potential performance, because my say is as good as what is going to happen in the market. I think that it's extremely unreliable. So really, my advice is to look at longer term track record of the strategy if you're looking at a longer term investment. So this AI fund does not pay monthly distribution. And we do have other strategies that pay monthly distribution, but there wouldn't be any strategy that focuses just on artificial intelligence with distribution. Because really, for AI companies, they are still fast growing. If you're looking for a distribution strategy, most of the time it will be fixed income, or perhaps equities that pays out dividends, or perhaps a mixed asset strategy that combines both of it. For the AI companies, these are fast growing. These are some companies most of the companies actually do not pay dividends. So it's going to be very difficult to have an AI fund that focuses on distribution for now. I'm aware that I'm actually overshot, so I'm just gonna take one more question on whether, okay, so in this strategy, the Allianz Global Artificial Intelligence, you can use SRS as well as cash. Very recently, we've actually gotten the CPF OA approval. So in about mid to end July, you will be able to use your CPF OA money for investment. So if you need further details, it's better to speak with the POEMS representative, and they can guide you further from there. Okay, so I will just end here. Thank you for inviting us again to share with you on Artificial Intelligence Fund. Apologies that the video wasn't sharing just now. If you do like, I can send over the link to the POEMS team, and they are able to share it with you. Or if not, you can just search Artificial Intelligence or Allianz Global Artificial Intelligence Fund on YouTube, and you'll be able to find more videos from there. Okay, so with that, thank you so much. Stay safe, everyone. And, I'll pass the stage back to the POEMS team.